The library was quiet that rainy afternoon. Outside, water trickled down the large, foggy windows, while the few visitors present seemed completely absorbed in their reading. Amid this calm scene, Max walked in with a smile on his face and a clear purpose in mind. "Hi, everyone. My name is Max, and today you're going to join me on a special mission. I'm an amateur detective, and I've received an urgent call to solve the mystery of the missing book in the city library." As Max took off his wet coat and hung it on a rack near the door, he kept speaking enthusiastically. "Learning English is a bit like solving a mystery. With every clue we find, we understand a little more about what's going on. Today, in addition to helping the library, we're going to learn together some words and expressions in English that can be super useful in daily life." Max looked around, observing the enormous shelves filled with books. "Have you ever been to a place like this? In English, we call this a library. Let's say it together. Library." He paused, smiling. "Great. And what do we find in a library? Books, of course. In English, we say books. One more time, books. Perfect." Walking slowly down the main aisle, Max spotted the librarian, who looked worried as she arranged stacks of books on a table. He decided to introduce himself. "Excuse me, can you help me?" He stopped and turned to the camera. This is a very useful phrase to politely ask for help. Let's practice it together. "Excuse me, can you help me?" "Excellent." The librarian briefly explained the problem. A very important book, part of a rare collection, had gone missing. She suspected someone had taken it from the wrong section by mistake, but no one knew where it was. Naturally, Max was intrigued. It seems like we have a case to solve. And of course, while we're searching for clues, we'll learn new words in English. What do you think? He then explained the importance of being attentive to the environment around you, introducing another word, clue. In English, clue means pista. Let's say it together, clue. Great. Now, whenever I find something interesting, I'll call it a clue, and you can help me decide if it's important or not. As he prepared to explore the library, Max posed a question to the viewers. What are your favorite places to visit? Do you like libraries? Now, whenever I find something interesting, I'll call it a clue, and you can help me decide if it's important or not. As he prepared to explore the library, Max posed a question to the viewers. What are your favorite places to visit? Do you like libraries? Let's solve this mystery together and expand our vocabulary at the same time. Get ready, because the next clue could be right here. Max began exploring the library, where the silence was broken only by the soft sound of rain outside. He walked through the main aisle, observing the tall shelves filled with books. The air had a distinctive scent of old paper and polished wood, adding a mysterious atmosphere to the place. Look at this. These aisles are like a maze. Can you imagine how many stories are hidden here? Let's learn more words while we search for clues. He pointed to the shelves around him. This is called a shelf. Repeat after me. Shelf. Perfect. And these books here are organized by categories, or in English, sections. Let's say it together. Section. Great job. As he spoke, the camera showed the surroundings, highlighting key words on the screen like books and shelves. Walking slowly, Max stopped in front of a table with several scattered papers. It looks like someone was working here. What could they have been doing? Maybe I'll find something important." He pointed to a piece of paper with a scribbled note and picked up a pen lying next to it. "This is a pen. Repeat after me. Pen. And this paper could be a clue. Do you remember what we—" Max kept walking until he reached a more secluded section where the aisles were narrower and dimly lit. He stopped in front of a shelf labeled History. "Ah, here's the history section, or in English, history section. Repeat after me. History section. Great." He looked around, trying to spot something out of place. While examining the books, Max paused to talk directly to the viewers. "You know what I've realized? Solving mysteries is like learning a language. You need to observe, practice, and ask questions. Speaking of which, can you see anything out of place here? Write in the comments if you notice something I should investigate." Suddenly, Max noticed a small folded piece of paper stuck between the books. He bent down, picked it up, and unfolded it. It was a list of words, apparently written by someone, but some were crossed out and hard to read. "This looks promising. Maybe someone was trying to hide something." He turned to the camera again. "Do you remember how to ask for help in English? Let's practice one more time. Excuse me, can you help me?" Always useful, right? While analyzing the paper, Max took the opportunity to reinforce learning new words. Here we have an important word, important, which means importante. Let's say it together. Important. What do you think this list means? I'm curious to hear your theories. He moved on, heading towards the library's central area, where there was more light and a few tables occupied by focused readers. Max passed a notice board on the wall and paused for a moment. This is called a board or notice board in English. A bulletin board. Let's say it together. Notice board. Do you see anything here that might be useful? It's always good to check everything carefully. After a few minutes, Max found something unusual, an open book with a page that seemed to contain a drawing. He leaned in to investigate. This is curious, a drawing in the middle of a history book? It might just be a coincidence, but I think it deserves attention. He showed the drawing to the camera and asked, "Do you think this is a clue or just a random note?" Remember, clue in English means pista. I'm starting to think this mystery is more complicated than it seems. As the chapter drew to a close, Max looked at the camera with a confident smile. "Well, we've found some interesting things so far. A crumpled paper, a strange list, and even a drawing in a book. It seems like we're on the right track. But we still need to piece these clues together and find the missing book. Ready to keep going? See you in the next part of the investigation." Max walked back toward the librarian's desk, the clues he had already gathered swirling in his mind. The soft hum of the library's lights and the faint rustling of pages created a calm atmosphere, but he could sense the urgency in the air. Approaching the librarian, he smiled politely and said, "Excuse me, can you help me? I think I found something interesting." The librarian, a middle-aged woman with glasses perched on the tip of her nose, looked up with a mix of hope and relief. "Oh, thank you for helping with this mystery. What did you find?" she asked. Max placed the crumpled paper and the strange drawing on the desk. "I found these in different parts of the library. Do you think they're connected to the missing book?" The librarian studied the items carefully. This paper looks like part of our log for borrowed books, but it's torn and incomplete. And this drawing, I'm not sure. It might be a note from one of our visitors. She sighed, clearly stressed. We have so many rare books here, and if this one isn't found, it will be a big problem. Max nodded, taking mental notes of her words. Turning to the audience, he said, "Did you notice how I used 'excuse me, can you help me' earlier? It's a polite way to ask for help. Let's practice it together. Excuse me, can you help me? Excellent." He paused and added, "And the word borrowed means to take something temporarily, like a book from the library. Let's repeat, borrowed. Great job." He turned his attention back to the librarian. "Do you remember who was the last person to look at the missing book?" he asked. The librarian thought for a moment. "I believe it was a tall man wearing a blue jacket. He was sitting near the history section yesterday." Max's eyes lit up. "That's a great lead. Thank you." He quickly noted this information and looked at the audience again. Let's learn some new words from this conversation. Tall means someone who is not short. Repeat after me. Tall. Good. And jacket is a piece of clothing, like the one I'm wearing. Say it with me. Jacket. Awesome. Feeling more confident about his next steps, Max asked the librarian, "Do you mind if I ask some of the readers nearby if they saw anything unusual?" The librarian nodded. "Of course, go ahead. I'll stay here in case you need more information." As Max moved toward the center of the library, he turned to the audience and said, "So far, we've learned some important words: borrowed, tall, and jacket. Remember, learning English is like solving a mystery. It takes observation, practice, and a little creativity." Max approached a table where a young woman was reading a large book. "Excuse me," he said politely. "Can I ask you a question? Did you see anyone near the history section yesterday?" The woman looked up thoughtfully. "Yes, I think I saw someone. He was tall and had a blue jacket. He seemed to be looking for something but left in a hurry." Max thanked her and turned to the camera. "Did you catch that?" she said. "I think I saw someone." The phrase "I think" is very useful when you're unsure about something. Let's practice it. I think. Perfect. He added, "And the word hurry means to move quickly. Repeat after me. Hurry. Excellent." He continued to another table where a man was typing on his laptop. "Excuse me, sir," Max said. "Did you notice anything unusual near the history section yesterday?" The man adjusted his glasses and replied, I saw a man drop something. It looked like a piece of paper, but I didn't think much of it." Max nodded, thanking the man. "That paper might be important. Thank you for telling me." Turning to the audience, he said, "Here's another useful word, drop. It means to let something fall. Let's practice. Drop. Great. And did you notice how I used the word important earlier? It means something that matters a lot. Say it with me. Important. Fantastic." As the chapter drew to a close, Max gathered his thoughts. He had several clues now: a torn log, a strange drawing, and witnesses describing a tall man in a blue jacket who seemed to be in a hurry. "We're starting to connect the dots," he said, smiling at the camera. "But we still have more questions to answer. Where did the man go? And why was he in such a hurry? Let's keep going and solve this mystery together." Max adjusted his imaginary detective hat and walked deeper into the library, heading toward the tables where readers were quietly engrossed in their books. The clues he had gathered so far gave him a clearer picture, but he needed more details to solve the mystery. He decided to interview a few of the library's visitors to find out what they might have seen. The first person he approached was a young woman sitting near a window, flipping through a large book. "Excuse me," Max said with a friendly smile. "Can I ask you a question?" The woman looked up, slightly surprised but willing to help. "Of course," she replied. "Did you notice anyone near the history section yesterday?" Max asked, keeping his tone polite. The woman thought for a moment. "Yes, I think I did. There was a man there tall, wearing a blue jacket. He seemed to be looking for something, but he left pretty quickly." Max nodded, grateful for her observation. Turning to the camera, he said, "Did you notice how I used 'Can I ask you a question' earlier? It's a polite way to start a conversation. Let's practice together. Can I ask you a question?" "Great job. And did you hear her use the word 'quickly'? It means to do something fast. Repeat after me, quickly." "Perfect." Max thanked the woman and moved to another table where a middle-aged man was scribbling notes in a journal. "Excuse me, sir," Max began. "Do you have a moment? I'm looking for information about a man who was near the history section yesterday." The man looked up, adjusting his glasses. He said thoughtfully. "I did see someone drop a piece of paper. It looked like he was in a hurry, but I didn't pay much attention at the time." Max's ears perked up. "Drop a piece of paper?" He repeated. "That's very interesting. Thank you." He turned back to the camera. "Here's a useful word, drop. It means to let something fall. Let's say it together, drop. Excellent." And you heard the word hurry again, meaning to move quickly. Let's repeat that one too. Hurry. Fantastic. As Max continued, he approached a young boy sitting with a stack of comic books. The boy seemed eager to talk, so Max asked, "Did you see anything unusual yesterday? Maybe near the history section?" The boy grinned. "Yeah, there was a guy there. He was looking at a big old book, but then he closed it really fast and walked away. He looked nervous." Max raised an eyebrow. "Nervous? That's an interesting clue," he said, jotting it down in his notebook. He looked at the camera again. The word nervous describes when someone feels worried or uncomfortable. Let's practice. Nervous. Great work. He thanked the boy and decided to review what he had learned. 3 people had all mentioned the same man. Tall, wearing a blue jacket, and acting suspiciously near the history section. He also had a consistent pattern. This person seemed to be in a hurry, dropped something, and might have taken the missing book. Max walked to a quiet corner of the library to organize his thoughts. Speaking to the audience, he summarized, "So far, we've learned some important new words: quickly, drop, hurry, and nervous. These are all useful words you can use in your daily conversations. For example, you can say, 'I'm in a hurry to get to work,' or 'Don't drop your phone.'" He paused for a moment, reflecting on the clues. We're getting closer to solving this mystery, but there are still a few pieces missing. Where did this man go after he left the history section? And why was he acting so nervous? Let's keep searching for answers. As he walked back toward the history section, he noticed something unusual. a trail of faint footprints leading away from the area. He muttered, bending down to inspect them. This might be our next clue. Let's follow these footprints and see where they lead. With a determined look, Max turned to the camera. Are you ready for the next part of the adventure? Let's follow the trail and see if we can uncover the truth behind this mystery. Max crouched to examine the faint footprints on the library floor. They were subtle but clear enough to follow. Look at this, he said to the audience, pointing to the trail. These footprints might lead us straight to our next clue. In English, we call these footprints. Let's say it together. Footprints. Perfect. He carefully followed the trail, which led to a secluded area of the library where older, less frequently borrowed books were kept. The area was dimly lit, with only a few beams of sunlight filtering through dusty windows. Max moved slowly, scanning the floor and the shelves for anything unusual. As he turned a corner, he spotted a book lying on the floor, slightly open. This must be important, he said, picking it up. The cover was ornate, and the title read, The Hidden History of the City. Max opened the book to the page where it had been left. There was a note tucked inside with hastily scribbled words. Meet me at 5 p.m. by the clock tower. Max's eyes widened. This is definitely a clue. In English, we can say important for something that matters a lot. Let's repeat, important. Great. And this note might give us our next lead. The word meet means to come together with someone. Let's practice. Meet. Awesome. He pocketed the note and thought for a moment. A clock tower, he muttered. Why would someone mention that? Let's think about it. Maybe the person who took the book is planning to meet someone there. Max decided to share his thoughts with the audience. This is getting exciting, isn't it? We've learned some useful words like footprints, important, and meet. Now, let's put these clues together and figure out our next step. Returning to the librarian, Max showed her the book and the note. She gasped in recognition. This book is part of the rare collection, but I don't recognize this note. It must have been left by the person who took it. Max nodded. Do you know where the clock tower is? I think I need to check it out. The librarian gave him directions, and Max turned to the audience. This is a great time to practice asking for directions. You can say, "Excuse me, where is the clock tower?" Let's try it. Excuse me, where is the clock tower? Perfect. You're doing great. Arriving at the clock tower, Max found it deserted, except for a small bench beneath the towering structure. He scanned the area and noticed a bag left on the bench. Approaching cautiously, he opened it and found the missing book, along with a note that read, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take it. I'll return it to the library tomorrow." Max smiled in relief. Looks like we've solved the mystery. Someone took the book by mistake and felt guilty enough to bring it here. Let's talk about the word sorry. It's a way to apologize when you've done something wrong. Say it with me. Sorry. Excellent. He returned to the library, book in hand, and gave it to the librarian. She beamed with gratitude. Thank you so much, Max. You've saved the day. Max turned to the camera for a final reflection. We've learned so much today. How to ask questions, follow clues, and use words like footprints, meet, and sorry. Mysteries are fun, but learning English along the way makes it even better. Don't forget, Every clue you solve and every word you learn brings you closer to fluency. With the case closed, Max waved goodbye to the librarian and stepped back into the rain-soaked streets, ready for his next adventure. With the mystery solved, Max found a quiet corner in the library to reflect on everything he and the audience had learned. Sitting at a small wooden desk, he spread out the clues, the torn log, the strange drawing, and the note from the clock tower. Now that we've solved the case, let's take a moment to learn from our adventure, Max said, turning to the camera with a smile. First, let's talk about the phrases and words we used to ask for help. Do you remember when I said, "Excuse me, can you help me?" This is such an important phrase in English. You can use it in almost any situation when you need assistance. For example, if you're at a store and can't find something, you could say, "Excuse me, can you help me find this item?" Let's practice it together. Excuse me, can you help me? Great job! Max held up the note that he had found in the book. Now, let's look at the word meet. This word was written in the note, and it means to come together with someone. For example, you can say, "Let's meet at the park," or "Can we meet after school?" Let's repeat, meet. Perfect. He placed the note down and picked up the drawing. This drawing reminded me of another important word we learned, clue. A clue is something that helps you solve a problem or mystery. In English, you might say, "I found a clue that helped me solve the puzzle." Let's practice it. Clue. Excellent. Max leaned forward, speaking more directly to the audience. Do you remember how we used the word sorry at the end of the story? It's a polite way to apologize when you've done something wrong. You could say, "I'm sorry I'm late," or "Sorry, I forgot to bring my homework." Let's say it together. Sorry. Fantastic. He pulled out his notebook and flipped through the pages where he had jotted down important words. Let's do a quick recap of all the new vocabulary we've learned today. We started with simple words like library and books, and then we moved on to more specific ones like footprints, important, and hurry. Each of these words can help you in real-life conversations. Max paused, giving the audience time to absorb the information. And don't forget the phrases we practiced, like, "Can I ask you a question?" and "Excuse me, where is?" These are very useful for everyday situations. To keep the learning fun, Max shared a small challenge. Here's something for you to try. Can you create a sentence using the words we learned today? For example, you could say, "I found footprints near the library." Write your sentence in the comments or say it out loud to practice. As he wrapped up, Max added a final piece of encouragement. Remember, learning English is like solving a mystery. You follow clues, ask questions, and figure things out step by step. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's all part of the process. With that, Max closed his notebook and smiled. You did an amazing job today. Let's keep this energy going in the next activity. Are you ready? Max stood up from the desk and clapped his hands together with enthusiasm. All right, detectives. Now it's your turn to put what you've learned into practice. Let's turn this mystery-solving adventure into an interactive challenge, he said, looking directly at the camera. To start, let's practice describing something. Think about the library we explored today. What can you say about it? For example, you could say, "The library has many books," or I saw footprints near the history section. Now it's your turn. Look around wherever you are, pick something, and describe it in English. Don't worry if it's simple, practice makes perfect. He paused to give the audience time to reflect and think. You can also write your sentences in the comments if you want me to check them later. Here's another example. The librarian was very helpful. Let's practice that sentence together. The librarian was very helpful. Great work. Max grabbed a pen and notebook from the table. Now, let's move on to asking questions. Imagine you're in a library and you need to find a specific book. What would you say? Let's try it together. Excuse me, can you help me find this book? Perfect. Now, create your own question. For example, you could ask, where is the history section? Go ahead and try. To make the activity even more engaging, Max added a mini mystery for the audience to solve. He held up a drawing of a stack of books with a note beside it. Here's a challenge for you. What would you say if you found this note in the library? What questions would you ask the librarian? Use the words and phrases we've practiced today to create your own sentences. Max leaned closer to the camera, speaking with a friendly tone. For example, you might ask, who left this note? Or, what does this note mean? Write your ideas in the comments or say them out loud. Don't be shy, it's all about practicing and improving. After giving the audience some time to respond, Max introduced one final activity. Now, let's work on using the words clue, meet, and nervous in sentences. Here's one. I found a clue that helped me solve the mystery. Let's say it together. I found a clue that helped me solve the mystery. Excellent. Now, try creating your own sentence using one of these words. He paused to encourage the viewers. Remember, learning English is like building a puzzle. Every piece, every new word or phrase brings you closer to the full picture. You're doing an amazing job. To wrap up the practice session, Max shared a fun task for the audience to do after the video. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to use at least 3 of today's words in your daily life. Maybe you can tell a friend about something important, or say you're sorry if you make a mistake. Let me know how it goes. Smiling warmly, Max concluded the activity. You've come so far today. Be proud of yourself. Practice these words and phrases, and soon they'll feel natural to you. Let's move on to the final part of our journey, a quick recap and some inspiration to keep learning. Max stood in the middle of the library, surrounded by the tall shelves of books that had witnessed the day's exciting events. He smiled at the camera, a mix of pride and encouragement in his expression. What an adventure we've had today! We solved a mystery, uncovered clues, and most importantly, learned so many new words and phrases in English. Let's take a moment to celebrate all that progress. He began to recap the day's lessons. We started with the basics, learning words like library and books. Then, as the mystery unfolded, we added new vocabulary like clue, footprints, and nervous. Along the way, we also practiced useful phrases like asking for help with "Excuse me, can you help me?" and making polite requests like, "Can I ask you a question?" You've done an amazing job practicing with me. Max walked slowly toward a window, gazing out at the now clear sky. Learning a new language is a lot like solving a mystery. At first, it feels confusing, like there are too many pieces to put together. But step by step, with curiosity and practice, you start to see the bigger picture. Every word you learn, every sentence you practice, brings you closer to fluency. And just like today's mystery, you don't have to do it alone. I'm here to help, and so are the people around you. Turning back to the camera, Max's tone became more encouraging. Remember, it's okay to make mistakes. In fact, mistakes are part of the process. When you try, even if it's not perfect, you're already ahead of where you were yesterday. Celebrate those small victories because they add up to something big. He paused, letting the message sink in. Then, with a bright smile, he added, "Now, here's my challenge for you. Take what you've learned today and use it. Maybe practice asking someone for help in English, or write a sentence with one of the new words we discovered. Share your experiences in the comments. I'd love to hear how you're putting your skills into action." As the video neared its end, Max's voice took on a tone of heartfelt inspiration. You are capable of achieving anything you set your mind to. Learning English is just one step on your journey, and every step you take brings you closer to your goals. Keep practicing, stay curious, and never give up. I'm so proud of you for joining me today. He waved warmly at the camera. Thank you for being part of this adventure. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss our next exciting story. Until then, keep learning, and I'll see you next time. The screen faded to black, leaving the audience with the final words. Every clue you solve, every word you learn, is a step toward success. Keep going, you've got this.